Hi, and welcome. Hi, and welcome to today's session, which is our fifth session, we started with work skills, and then we went to what we're discussing today, which is entrepreneurship skills, and then we went to money skills. Last week, but one we discussed people skills, and today, again, we are discussing entrepreneurship skills because it's what you guys requested, and we are here to just make sure that you're getting the most out of these sessions. My name is Lucy, and as always, I'm going to start with a personal story just to bring you closer to myself and to bring you closer to the audience and the topic of discussion. So today being about entrepreneurship skills, I had two stories, no, actually three, that I wanted to give you. And all of them are inspired by some of my friends who have tried being in the entrepreneurship skills and now are employed or vice versa. So just a disclaimer, I do not mean to belittle any career or any sort of employment. I'm just giving some of the examples that I've found in my experience. And I think sometime last month, I sat down with a lawyer friend of mine. And from the time that I knew him, he has always been a lawyer, a successful person. And I couldn't believe when he told me he started out as someone who was selling SIM cards in his village. And I found it so funny, but, you know, because I couldn't picture him selling SIM cards. And I found it so funny because, you know, we start so small and then we grow so big without even intending to or without even knowing that we are going to get there. So that was the first story. The second story is of a friend of mine who I believe is watching today. She's successful, she has her own business and she's doing so well for herself. But she started as a promotion agent. You know those ladies or gentlemen you meet in a supermarket promoting a certain product? It was so funny because actually when I did my last moderation session last week, she told me, hey Lucy, let's go for lunch. I'm gonna treat you for lunch because you did so well. So as we were discussing the session and some of the things we've been through as young people, she told me how after campus she was, she was employed in a supermarket to promote a product, which I'll not name. And I found it so funny because, again, I could not picture her in a supermarket selling a product. But I think that's where we all begin, from a small, well, not to belittle, but from one point in our life to a bigger point in our life. And, you know, the reason we are here today is to make sure that as you transition from school or from one job to another, that you are getting the skills, the mentorship, and the encouragement that you need to make sure that you get to the level that you want to be. Because as human beings, we are always trying to achieve more, and we don't want to be stagnant. So nothing wrong with what you're doing right now, nothing wrong with where you're going to start, but we are just here with the panelists to make sure that you get the best that you can be. And with that said, I'm going to talk a little more about the reason why we are here, myself, the panelists, and even yourself, which is ReadytoWork, which is a program we offer as Absa to all the countries that we are in. But in Kenya, we've taken that a notch higher, as I was telling the panelists, and we've decided to have these sessions just for you to make sure that you're getting the most out of the course and even the most out of the people that you can look up to in the country. And in ReadytoWork, you can find it at readytowork.absa.africa. In there, you'll be able to register, take the modules. We have work skills, we have people skills, we have entrepreneurship skills, and we have, which one did I not say? Money skills. How could I forget that one? And under work skills, young people are taught how to carry themselves as they seek employment opportunities, as well as put together documents such as CVs and application letters. And last month, we did work skill webinar with Caroline Motoko and Jogosh, who you might know from the comedy world. And they taught us so much about what you can do about work skills, writing your CV, going to the workplace, finding something that you're passionate about. And then there's people skills, which is the webinar we did last week, part one, which covers the importance of being able to work as part of a team and complete the given task. It empowers young people with the skills that help them work well with teams through sharing ideas and nurturing interpersonal relationships. That was an amazing one, and maybe I say an amazing one because I moderated it, but again, it was an amazing session, and you can find it at Absa Bank Kenya YouTube page if you want to watch what was discussed. The other one is money skills, which works in installing the fundamentals of saving and spending, as well as building an understanding of how to create responsible credit responsibility. Now, the one we are discussing today is entrepreneurship skills, which covers factors to consider when contemplating self-employment and guide on how to start and operate a successful business. It teaches people how to write business proposals and how to pitch business ideas successfully. So, and that's what we'll be discussing today. So I'm just going to take a small break and introduce the panel because, you know, they're the reason you're here and they're the people you're going to learn from. And I'm going to help you ask the right questions, the questions that have come in through the week, and the questions that you're going to ask even as we continue with the session. Yeah. Welcome back. So before I introduce the panel, we are going to go through some housekeeping rules that are going to make sure that you get the most out of this session, because we don't want you being interrupted. We don't want you being, you know, just having issues throughout the session. We just want you to have a good time, enjoy as much as you can, and get the most out of the session. And house rule number 1 is the people who are attending this session on Zoom will be muted just to make sure that you don't interrupt the session. And then today's webinar is being recorded and a link will be shared with you after the event for the people on Zoom. For the people on YouTube and Facebook, this video will be available on the specific pages and you can always come back and watch it again. And then there'll be polling conducted during the webinar. This is on Zoom, and this will be will also be a quick feedback survey as you exit. Again, for people on Zoom, please take time to share your feedback with us. Last but not least, please use the chat box section to ask your questions and share your comments, and to also participate in the Icebreaking game that I'm about to introduce you to. So, before we begin, or before I introduce the panel, I'm going to play a quick game with the panelists and with you, of course. So please comment on Facebook, on YouTube, on Zoom, and let me know which one you prefer. So the game is called This is Better Than That. So I'm going to give you two choices, and you pick which one you prefer over the other, okay? Cool. I'm going to start with the person on my right, yes. Do you prefer R&B or jazz music?
R&B.
R&B?
Yeah.
Okay. So guys, you have 30 seconds to tell me which one you prefer as I go to the next question. And the next question is for Terian. Power or money?
Can I pick both?
No.
Money.
Money? Okay. We'll discuss that. We'll ask her questions as to why she prefers money. But guys, again, you have 30 seconds to tell me you prefer money or power. And then the next question goes to Tracy. Do you prefer entrepreneurship or being employed?
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah?
100%.
Is that because that's what we are discussing today?
Not because we're discussing that, but it just has so many pains and gains that you really can't, explain until you're there.
Okay.
So yes, entrepreneurship.
Okay. Because this is an interesting question. I'm going to ask it again to Suzanne. Power or money?
Oh, okay. Money.
Money?
Yes.
Okay, money. Okay, cool. What do you prefer, money or power? So with that said, as you continue to bring in your comments, I'm going to introduce the panel because you've already met them, and I would like to, tell more about who they are. And I'm going to start with Jessie Muraya, who is a technology enthusiast who wears several hats. I don't know which one you're wearing today, but you can tell us. He's the managing director of Pong Agencies Limited, a leading ICT system solutions company in East Africa. He's also the chief executive officer at Cosmos Trading Company Limited, a construction company. 2 different jobs, and I plan to ask why he decided to venture into both. He's also a director at the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce for Youth in Business in Kenya, working to help bring up the next generation of business leaders in Kenya. Jesse, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a bit about yourself, except what I've read.
All right. Wow. Thank you very much for the amazing introduction. Yeah, otherwise, apart from what has just been mentioned about myself, I'm really, really passionate about young people and helping bring them up, helping them to chart their path towards entrepreneurship. And even for that, I recently started yet another venture called Starting Ev, where basically we incubate young business owners and help them to be able to scale their businesses. And I think right now entrepreneurship has become, it's something to actually look forward to because if you look maybe 10 years ago, people really did not think of entrepreneurship as a career. They actually just happened to have jumped into it. But I think right now it's something that people look forward to. I think it's something that's highly supported and promoted, like by institutions like Absa, for example, and others. So yeah, so that's something else perhaps that may not have been included. So yeah, I'm really passionate about young people and helping them bring out the best from the entrepreneurial journeys. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So my first question to you is, how do you even choose the title to go with? You have quite a number. So today, do you wake up and think, no, I'm going to go with CEO, no, I'm going to go with director? Which one how do you choose which title to go with?
Yeah, that's a funny one. I guess it depends on the on the audience and on the context. So depending on who it is that you actually meet, it's like a CV, for example.
Yeah.
You won't just you'll not just write a CV and send it out to everyone, which is not a good practice. You actually have to tell your CV to the organization that you're willing to apply for. So I think even for me, in terms of a position, it depends on who I'm approaching. It depends on the proposal I'm writing. It depends on what I'm looking for. So for example, on my day job, of course, and what actually feeds or puts money on the table, that's what I do, for example, at Pong Agencies.
Yeah.
And I think that's often what I lead with, and I believe that's my first passion. Then the others just depends on the context. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well answered. So my next panelist is someone I have, taken the better part of my week trying to study, trying to understand, because, as a moderator, you have to understand your panelist, and I couldn't. So I hope today myself and you, get to get the most out of her and get to understand a little better. So I'm just going to read her profile. Terian Chebet, she's the CEO of Keara Botanicals. She's an entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Keara Botanicals, one of Kenya's leading homegrown skincare brands, a digital content creator and influencer. In 2020, last year, when there was COVID and all of us was just having issues and drama, she founded Africa's Leading Ladies, a platform with a membership of not one, not two, not 10,000, not 100,000, but 380,000 women from Africa. The platform gives access to learning, mentorship, pairing with group members, as well as access to network that enable African women achieve their highest potential. If that's not impressive, I don't know what it is. Terian, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. My name is Terian Chebet. I'm, as our moderator said, I wear many hats as well. I always say this is my last most productive decade. I am 42 this year and will be 50 in a couple of years. So after 50, you'll find me on a beach in Malibu or in Bora Bora, so sipping martini. So for now, I just, I put my all in everything. I love young people. I love entrepreneurship. And perhaps what has not been captured in my introduction, and just based on one of the stories that our moderator talked about earlier, my first business was actually selling second-hand Mtumba clothes in Kitale, and I was also a makeup artist as a side hustle many years ago. So I'm really big about starting small, because not only is starting small important for your journey, but it's important for building the early discipline that you'll need, because whatever you put, whether in time or skills or expertise into your small business, is more or less the same you'll do it in your big business. So for me, I'm extremely passionate about that.
Okay, thank you, Tirian. Before I ask my first question, she's the host of a Biashara Talk as well, which she did not mention because she's humble, but she's the host of a Biashara Talk and Dream Homes Kenya on her YouTube channel, which focuses on entrepreneurship and real estate. She also has over 15 years experience in media practice because that's where most of you may know her from as a media leadership and management. She is regularly called upon to moderate high economic panel discussion and debates across the world. Talk of pressure. But Rian, 2020 was not an easy year for most of the guys, and yet you came up with an amazing business. What do you think it was about? Is it like an idea you had throughout the many years and then it actualized in 2020, or was it something that was born in 2020?
It was actually born in 2020. Oh. And the reason that happened was all of us were going through the same thing. Many people lost their jobs, some people got pay cuts. Those who were in school had to stop going to school. So there was, a collective despair. So to speak. And so the reason I set up Africa's Leading Ladies was first to create a space where women could engage. And women here is anything from, we have members from 17, 16 up to, 70s. So it was basically a place where women could engage, find mentorship, find opportunities, and just be in a positive space. Because I felt like we were so isolated, living in our own houses. Yeah. We were not able to go out much. Yet there's so much opportunity in just getting to engage and knowing each other. And it's been incredible. We've made some incredible partnerships with organizations that have provided so much value to women who would never have had access to that. And I know Absa is one of them. Yeah. So I'm glad that started, and it's just the beginning. It's a few months in. It was in July of last year. So we're looking forward to seeing what else can we do, who can we partner with, what can we ensure that women benefit from the opportunities that are available. So yeah.
Okay, that's entrepreneurship, and making the most out of every situation, especially a situation where most people find it negative. You make something positive out of it, or you look for the gaps and what, the demand and supply. Yeah. Okay, my next panelist is called Tracy Wanjiro. She's a beautiful lady. She's a media personality, MC, and digital influencer. Tracy has been in the entertainment scene since 2015. She hosts Saturday Breakfast on Capital FM every Saturday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then she also runs a youth show, Teen Republic, that airs live on NTV every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So she does a Capital show from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then from 11 to 1, she hosts another show on NTV. I hope you get where I'm coming from. And then that has allowed her to interview the likes of Trey Songz, Tiwa Savage, Yemi Alade, Omarion, Rick Ross, Diamond, Vanessa Mdee, Calligraph, Nameless, among other Kenyan artists. She's also an occasional host on TTT, which is Trend on NTV that airs every Friday. She has hosted Wizkid, Timaya, Diplo concerts, as well as won several awards for her fashion sense. Now, I don't think you guys will have a more relatable panelist than Tracy, and I'm just going to give her a few minutes to introduce herself.
So yes, that's me in a nutshell, Tracy Wanjiro. So yes, you mentioned about the Saturday dilemma, right? Which is just complete chaos, but I love it. So other than that, during the week I am in school. So I am an international relations student at USIU, currently doing online school, which for me has been such a blessing in the sense that, you're still able to focus on other things on the side as well, which I think is part of the entrepreneurship journey. Yeah. Sometimes you just really need to have your feet and you just have to everywhere, sometimes even at a go. So other than that, I did start a new show on YouTube that is called Fearless. So the reason why I started doing this is, you know, when I looked back, especially in 2020, I remember sitting down and, you know, once the lockdown had hit and, you know, curfew, we really didn't have a sense of where we were going, like what really was the direction. And I remember just having some sort of panic and fear and wondering, okay, so now what is life after this? Like, where do I go from here, right? So Fearless was created some time back, but I think last year really gave it meaning as to what being the best version of yourself, which is, I believe, being a very, very fearless person and being able to go through the challenges, the waves, the good, the bad, you know, and just being the most, again, fearless version of yourself. So that's when Fearless was born. And I'm just asking everyone to join me on this fearless journey because, I mean, you find really good things, you know, once you're able to conquer your fears. So yes, that is currently what I'm doing, and all those other things.
Now I feel like my question to you is a bit, you know, a bit muted, but is it always fun times in your career? You know, music, interviewing all these big people.
You know what? I'm actually living my dream, right?
Yeah.
When I was younger, this is what I wanted to do. So is it always fun times? No. But is it always very fulfilling and very satisfying? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay. So even when it's not fun times, it's fulfilling, which is
exactly,
which is the end goal.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And I don't think, is there really ever like fun times 24/7? It's never, right?
Too much of something is dangerous.
Like, even for the panelists, you know, for yourself, Lucy, I'm sure you sometimes sit back and you're like, okay, why in the world am I doing this?
Yeah.
Like, why do I have to have a skincare brand? Like, and then, you know what I mean? Like, it's not always fun times, but you understand your purpose and you understand what it is that you want to accomplish and achieve. And I think that just gives you the fuel to keep going.
Okay. Well put. I'm just going to go straight to the next panelist, who is called Susan Situma, who works here at Absa with me, and we've interacted on a few sessions, but I'm just going to read her profile. Susan is currently the head of SME marketing at Absa Bank Kenya. She has held the role for 5 years. She has a wealth of banking experience spanning over 20 years in various roles. With 4 years experience in the SME area, she has been involved in several key SME initiatives in Kenya as a speaker. Susan, I think I can't do justice to everything that you are. Please introduce yourself.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Yes, so my name is Susan Situma. I've worked with SMEs actually for the last 14 years. I think this is my 15th year I'm starting. Just working with SMEs, I'm really passionate about them and looking at ways in which we can solve the challenges that they have, especially regarding not just access to finance, but how do they get to understand what they need to be able to build a business that can stand the test of time, which I believe as a country, we still have we're still young compared to other countries in terms of our entrepreneurship journey when you compare ourselves, whether it's to countries like Turkey. I mean, they've been doing that over 1,000 years.
Yeah.
We're still not 1,000 years in Kenya in our entrepreneurship journey. So there's quite a bit to learn. So in that respect, my favorite thing to do is to think about, okay, so what can we do? We have the second wave of lockdown as a result of this third wave of COVID. And I'm busy thinking what should be our intervention for SMEs during this period. So I'm passionate around that, but I'm also passionate about family. I'm married. I have 3 boys who keep me awake. And but family is important, and I realize that because they cheer you on based on what you do. And I believe even more so for an entrepreneur when things are not always rosy, like Tracy has said. So at some point, when you really need to be psyched up, you get back to your family. So I value family as well.
Okay, awesome. I like that you brought in the aspect of family, because I think one of the biggest questions that entrepreneurs have is how to balance between your work, your passions, and your family. So more questions on that coming soon. And I also like that you said how other countries are developed. And, you know, that's the reason why we have you. And we are so privileged to have you as part of Absa, to just help the SME, which is you today, someone who's trying to open a business, start a business. We're just here as a bank to make sure that we can get you to the next level of your career or your business. And I'm going to go straight to questions because we're already in the mood. And I have 2 questions that are general questions, which I think relate to all of you, and then 4 questions for each of you, which is mostly designed depending on your area of expertise. My first question is, you know, just a little bit about your entrepreneurship journey. Yeah, and we'll start with Jesse.
All right, thank you. So first of all, I'd like to appreciate this is such an amazing panel,
Yeah.
Lucy.
Thank you.
With very amazing leading ladies in their own right and entrepreneurs. So I'm actually honored to be part of this panel. So yeah, so maybe a bit about my entrepreneurship journey. Mine is a bit different in that it wasn't something that I particularly stumbled upon. It's something that that came about from you know, just being able to decide what sort of path I want to chart in my own life, okay? So first of all, I love anything to do with technology, for example. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. You know, I love gadgets. I like, you know, glitzy things. I like, you know, anything associated with, you know, technology that can make things easier. So when I was younger, my mom used to teach computers, and that was maybe in the early 90s. So you can imagine, you know, a lot of big, the machines were big.
Yeah.
There used to be something called Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows 3.0. I don't know if anyone, especially in the audience, can recall anything like that. Yeah, but basically, even before the mouse was invented, let me put it that way, because you had to, you know, go through something called MS-DOS to be able to open a lot of applications. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time at our workplace, even when I was about probably 8 years old, just playing around, tinkering with the computers. And then, of course, before we go to bed also, we had to, because we were 4 of us as siblings, we also had to learn typing, and I used to hate that. But I used to love playing the games. I used to love opening applications, playing with Lotus and all those other things. So the passion began when at a very young age. So moving on forward, as my journey continued, and as I did not go to school to learn IT. I actually went and learned finance. So that's one key thing, actually, one key pointer. You do not actually have to study what it is you're doing as an entrepreneur. You just have to have the passion for it. And since I think I already had the skills at that point of time, I just decided, you know what, let me go learn business, finance. Let me, you know, figure out whether I want to be the person actually doing the software development or the coding. I want to be able to manage teams and lead teams. So I actually went and did business management. Then, thank God, also had an amazing family who came around me. And my journey into Pong Agencies, now that's a company that I'm leading right now, is actually a journey into a family business. So the business actually was started by my dad many years ago. And at that point of time, we were doing telecommunications. So this is a journey that is often not you know, trampled upon by Africans especially. We only see that a lot with Asians. So this is an intentional journey that you know, I decided to get into. Just see whether I can be able to come into the family business and see if I can be able to align my passions with that and be able to lead in terms of what I enjoy doing. And that's why I came in maybe about 10 to 12 years ago. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey. Right now, we just launched a new online shop where we can be able to sell. I mean, first of all, because of the COVID crisis, everything is going online. So right now, the shop is called pongafrica.shop. So basically, we're selling devices so that you can be able to access the internet. You can be able to, you know, purchase. I mean, you can be able to get onto the e-commerce world through purchasing various devices. So it's been an amazing journey, and that's basically how I got into. The other things, of course, were just out of a need and out of just experience. So getting to the construction industry again, that was just out of experience, being able to interact with a lot of people who are in the construction sector. Figured that was something that we could be able to get into. Yeah, so I've done many other things. I've sold milk, for example. Yeah, so there was a time we were actually distributing milk for one of the major milk distributors. So I think in terms of entrepreneurship, it just depends on what your objectives are. And I'm honest with my objectives. My objectives are to make money as an entrepreneur. And if I'm honest with that, I think anything else that I do around that will be able to align to that. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Okay. Before we go to Terian, I have picked a few nuggets, and I hope you've been making notes for yourself, because I have. And the first thing I got is his career at Pong is a second generation business. He got it from, you said you got it from...
my dad.
From his dad. So maybe sometimes all you need to do is not so far off. You just need to see what your parents are doing, what your friends are doing, and pick on that, because it could be your calling, and it could be the best thing the thing that you're best at. The second thing that I picked up is it's not always what you study. I don't know what that says about your education in Kenya, but he said he's studied finance and he's now in IT. I studied finance, I'm in marketing, and I would not change it for the world. So maybe it's not always what you study. There's a question there on our education, but sometimes even when you're out of school, you don't have to focus on what you studied. Sometimes you just have to follow your passion, and that could lead you to what you're supposed to do. And the second thing that I got is, again, back to my first point, is what you're meant to do is not always so far. You don't have to dream big or watch all these people who are doing amazing things. It can be so close to you. It's what your family is doing. It's what you're passionate about. And it's what, it's just something so close to you that you'll be shocked when you put all your efforts into that. Again, he said his reason for the things that he does is money. What's your reason? Terian, hi. Hi. Okay, your entrepreneurship journey?
So I'm a big believer in having multiple streams of income. And I don't know if I stumbled upon it by chance, or I just figured out that I'm actually interested in doing more than one thing at a time. So when I first started my first formal business, which is called Scala Digital, it's an advertising agency, I was working in a media house, but I was reporting to work at 1 o'clock. Which meant I had the whole morning free. And I'm not the type to sit down and do nothing. I don't know how to sleep after the sun is up. So I decided to start a social media marketing company at the time. I approached a bank. I don't even think I had a name for the company at that point. So I approached a bank and I did a proposal, and I said I can handle your Twitter and your Facebook and your LinkedIn. And so, we had that conversation, and that's how I started the business, with zero capital, actually. It was just with what I believed I knew. And the business grew quite well, and eventually I got a partner on board, and she now runs that business. Later on, I started Care Botanicals, which is what I run now. And the reason I started that, which for me always goes back to, what's your why did you start? And it gives you the fuel you need to keep, the business going. And I liked what Tracy said earlier, that sometimes you'll wake up and say, why the hell am I doing, can I use the hell in this webinar? No, I can't.
Just mute it.
Why am I doing this? So you always need your why. So for me, it was, there was a gap in the market for that. I realized it when I spoke to other moms. My daughter had a dry skincare condition, and a doctor said you can use shea butter, and that's exactly how the business started, because I realized there were other people around me. So for me, entrepreneurship is also about that. It's finding the gaps around you and plugging in, because sometimes I feel like we're such a copycat society. You'll go into town and you'll find 10 shops, all of them selling the same things. And, I'm like, why can't we complement, each other? And I think that's how, businesses can grow even faster, because it is your passion. It's not doing what other people are doing. So my entrepreneurship journey has been interesting, ups and downs. It's been the times I've wanted to completely shut down Care Botanicals, for instance. I'm like, this thing is not working, you know. But then I'm like, I really, I'm so happy, and you know, my energy is always at such a high when I'm working with Care Botanicals. I'm like, at least let me do it for that.
Yeah.
You know, at least let me do it for that. And it is a beautiful business, and in a market where we're, at least when we started, we were dominated by international brands. And there was also an opportunity for building a locally homegrown brand, not just for myself. And I always say, you know, the more skincare brands we have, the higher chances of us to actually grow the industry as a whole. So I think the opportunities are massive to get into that space as well. The capital is quite low. It's lower than most people would think. So for those who are thinking of getting into skincare, I would say jump on that ship. The time is just right.
Awesome. Again, from the topic, from the pointers that I took from Terian's journey is you must have multiple streams of income. I don't know what that says for us who are employed and just living comfortably, but maybe it's a wake-up call that you must have multiple streams of income, because you never know what is going to happen to your main one. So you must have a secondly, a third, and a fourth. And you also talked about, you know, starting your business with zero capital. And I think most of the questions that entrepreneurs ask is, how much do I need to start a business? And maybe you've already answered the question. Sometimes you need zero capital. You just need experience, connections, and the right partners. Because you also talked about your partner being the one who's now leading the company. And sometimes we have friends who are good at things, but we don't see that. We just see them as friends. But maybe that is a wake-up call for you to see that this friend that you have who is really good at IT, who's really good at, you know, talking to people, making them buy into what you want, that could be your partner right there. And you just have to look into them as a partner as to what you need to bring your business to life. You also talked about passion or looking for gaps. So, you know, sometimes you go online and you're looking for probably a place to go and have a good time that is not too expensive, like a holiday, or you look for a makeup artist, or you look for clothes online, for shoes, and you can't find what you're looking for. Either they're too expensive or they don't offer delivery services. That could be your gap, and that could be what you need to tap into to bring your business to life. Before I go on, I'm going to introduce our next panelist, who is called Tracy, and she can tell us a bit more about her entrepreneurship journey.
So my entrepreneurship journey is very, very recent, I think, as I have said. Reason being is that for the longest time, entrepreneurship wasn't really something that my mind was settled at, right? So I finished high school not so long ago. So, and also, like when I finished high school, and even in high school, entrepreneurship is not really something that you're taught, right? It's really just a business studies unit that you need to do, and that's it, right? Of course, at home, also, the conversation on entrepreneurship was not really that kind of conversation. The conversation was, okay, ukimaliza shule, sasa uende utafute job. You know what I mean? And I think even for me, that was where my head was at. My head was at, you know, once I'm done with high school, I just needed to get money to help out at home, right? Because I remember most of my friends at that time, you know, they came from very, you know, stable homes. And, you know, I would feel bad sometimes, you know, you guys have to go to, those days were those days for junkie. So that tells you how young I am. When we used to go roam around Junction Mall just to walk around, you know, go buy pizza. So I used to feel bad that I'm that kabib who doesn't buy pizza, you know, or I don't have money to buy chicken. And you know, not every other Saturday that you want your friends to buy
for you,
ati, you see, today you buy for me, and then I'll figure something out. So it got to a point, honestly, that really stressed me out. And I thank God for one of my friends who understood that, and, you know, she'd always fill in the gap for me. But honestly, it really just gets draining, right? Like, you're tired. At a fair, my goodness, even that, you know what I mean? So anyway, After high school, I did also those odd jobs. I remember there's a time I went to my closet and my friend had told me this great idea that, you know what, Tracy, let's pick the shoes that we don't like. Let's go to toy market and sell it to the guys, right? So we'd walk and then ask like a seller, how much will you buy these shoes for? And yeah, which was, I mean, at that time I remember I had this pink Supras, and at that time Supras were the thing, right? Yeah. So I'm looking at this Supras, I'm like, I really begged my mom for these shoes. Now I'm gonna sell them, right? And this guy was only offering 250. But I'm just like, you know what? Hey, that 250 is not too bad. So anyway, yeah, so we did that. I also did the promotional jobs that you're talking about, you know, going to clubs, going to different events and promoting some of their brands. So I did that for a while, and then thank God, eventually I met up with the co-host of Tin Republic, and he was like, you know, they're looking for a co-host for the show. Can you come and audition? So went for the audition, and then from there, you know, life started. Thank God, because it was, yeah. So then now started my TV journey. But then now looking back, this was always something that I wanted to do. It's just that, you know, when you're done with high school and you're trying to figure all these things out, sort of like your purpose sometimes gets really clouded because there's so many things around you that you're trying to fix and you're trying to figure out. So eventually got into TV, got into radio, started doing digital influencing, doing all that, thank goodness, thank God. And then now last year, like I said, COVID really now pushed me to think out of the box, right? It's like, okay, yes, you're employed, but then what else can you do? Right? What else can you do to fill a gap, like Terian had said? What else can you do to really fulfill your purpose? What else can you do, like Jessie said, to make more money, right? So that is where, again, Fearless was born. And you know, when you think about entrepreneurship, and I remember even when I got the brief, I was like, am I an entrepreneur? But honestly, you look at the show that I have that is Fearless, and it really is a business, right? Because every other week there's a new episode. That episode has to be paid for. I need to pay my production team, right? I need to pay, you know, the social media manager that's running my accounts, right? I need to figure out where I'm getting this money from, right? So it's really, and also proposals, I need to be able to send that. I need to, like, it's so many things that honestly I did not think would come into play, but I can proudly say I am an entrepreneur. Yes, so here we are.
Okay, cool. But for sure you are an entrepreneur. And I picked five pointers from what Tracy said. And my number one is you have to be out there to find your purpose sometimes. As she was doing all these shows in clubs, in events, and that's where she found her now career at NTV. That's where she found this person who talked to her about the show that he thought would fit her. So you don't have to be in the house. You don't have to be just there feeling sad for yourself that you don't have a job or you don't have a good income source. You just have to be out there to find, because that could be where you find your purpose. And number two, she talked about how being an entrepreneur is not about having a product. Sometimes it's the service. She's bringing up this product, this service, which is Fearless, just encouraging people to be fearless and to do things that they're afraid of. And that's a business. It doesn't have to be a tangible product. It can be a service. And number four, she talked about COVID. And by now, I think COVID equals entrepreneurship. So during now the second wave, the third wave, you must, or you have to push yourself to look for a business idea or something that you can do that will help you earn money, even in the lockdown or even in the next phase of COVID. Without further ado, let me introduce Susan, who will tell us about her entrepreneurship journey, if any, because I know her from Absa, but who knows?
Yeah, true. Thank you. Really nice listening to the stories for the panelists, and really kudos for getting out of yourself to really take the risk to do something that was bigger than yourself. I'm sure it's not easy. As much as they make it sound like it is a walk in the park, I'm sure it's not. So my journey in entrepreneurship, which is really leading, sort of managing entrepreneurs, started with my passion to help others. So I remember going to university, and I actually did psychology. I didn't do anything in finance. I did psychology. But what I did, I realized that all my electives as I was doing my psychology degree were in business and finance. And I got A's there. Psychology, I was struggling. So that already was a pointer to me in terms of what I'm really good at, because I think also as an entrepreneur, you've got to think about what are your interests, what are you good at, what are you not good at, so that then it leads you to what would then be your passion.
Yeah.
So I remember then I started working for Ndugu Society, because then I was doing my psychology thing. And I really love helping others. And I think it's even helped me now as I seek to solve entrepreneurial problems, because I will sit to listen and I will try to play that back and understand how then can I get a solution, right? So it really does play a role in my current role in supporting entrepreneurs. But then I worked for Ndugu. Then, as luck would have it, I started doing an internship with then Barclays, actually. And I mean, at that time, it wasn't really like a real job. But then I got a job at one of the institutions where I started my career. And I was really getting tired of either you're stamping checks, you know, in banking, there's some jobs that just don't change. And I'm like, I'm stamping checks, or you're listening to customer complaints and you're solving them, and which is a really important area.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to do something more. I wanted to mean something, sort of like do consultancy, but within what I do and my passion. And I remember just every time I used to look at the guys who were supporting business people, and they used to pass by me, and I asked one of the bosses, how can I do this? And he just told me, just get an interest. And I started without knowing anything. I don't have finance background, remember? So I had proposals to do, and I remember just being bullish and walking to my boss and saying, I would like to go to that department and work there, because I want to start that journey of being able to support entrepreneurs. And I didn't know anything, but I'm happy they gave me the chance to be able to move there. I literally had to write a letter, a proposal to my boss. This is what I want to do. And I was very happy when I finally got there. Of course, it was a big journey. I had a tough boss. I used to do proposals. Then he used to cancel everything. Then I have to go back and think, how am I going to present this proposal from an entrepreneur to the bank so that we can fund it? And that's literally how I learned. So I had to read the files, and with that, at least I can say it's the best learning. You learn because you have a passion and you really push yourself out of your comfort zone. Because then I had to like go to work very early, make sure that I've done what it takes to be able to make sure he's not gonna cancel everything that I put out. Be the best that you can be in that position. So that's how I started. Then when SME started becoming the main thing, I remember at that time, because remember I've said I've done SME business for about 14 years. So I was part of the group that really set up an SME banking division within the bank. And that gave me a lot of skills to understand how then I could be able to be of more value. So we started visiting small businesses, and I just knew, based on my passion to be a consultant for a business, I could sit with a business owner and understand what they need and be able to solve them. That was really giving me so much satisfaction, because I was helping them.
Yeah.
And that was sort of satisfying my personal needs. So that's my journey in where I am today.
Okay.
So started small as an SME banker. At least I've run two big banks, their SME business, which is going on well.
Okay, so I think you have had some experience in entrepreneurship, not your typical one, but sometimes, again, we are learning from the panelists some of the things that they have been through that can help us become the best that we can be. And because today's discussion is entrepreneurship, we are going to make sure that everything that is discussed today helps you as an entrepreneur. And Susan talked about, she's employed, but she has a passion to help others. And that is her unique story of entrepreneurship. She helps entrepreneurs or SMEs get the best that they can be, even if she's employed. And she also spoke about knowledge equals purpose and equals answers your big why. Because sometimes I think we ask ourselves, I think the most difficult thing in life is to find out your purpose. And your purpose is simple. It's your why. Why do you wake up in the morning? Why do you do the things that you do? And for Susan, she says her purpose was helping others. And it equipped her, the knowledge that she learned in school, equipped her with the skills that she needed to help others, and that answered her why. And that's why she talks about satisfying her individual cravings as a woman. And I think that's an important takeaway for you. And the other point she made is you have to learn on the job. She did a number of proposals, and even when the first one was rejected or it was marked in red, she still did another one and another one, and now she's the head of SME in Absa. So sometimes it's not the first trial, it's not the second one, it's not the third one. You just have to keep trying until you get to where you're supposed to be. And then, learn on the job. Sometimes you don't have to have 100% awareness of what you are about to do. Sometimes you just have to know 50% of what you're about to endeavor in, and then the 70%, the 80%, the 100% will come in as you go. And then when you get to 100, you can start another venture like Jesse has done. You can start another career if you feel like what you've started has already satisfied you as an individual, and now you need to give more or to achieve more. With that said, I'm just going to read some of the comments that came in my Icebreaking game. And I asked what people prefer. Was it money or power? And most people agree with you, Terianne and Susan. Everybody's just here. Fred Kinoti says money. Elizabeth Odongo says money. Lynn says money. Faith says money. Jane says money. Collins, money. I do not. Okay, there's one. Victor Balaza, who says power all day. I wish I could interview you and ask why power. But most people are picking money. We have entrepreneurship for most of the guys. And then we have R&B, and we have one person talking of jazz. And we have some questions coming in, so I'm just gonna take that after the break. But for now, keep your comments coming, and I'm gonna give the panelists a break to just breathe, sip some water, and then we'll be right back. Please keep your questions coming. If there's anything that you want to learn from the panelists, if there's anything that you want me to ask, please put it in the comment section, and I'll be sure to ask. We're taking a 10 seconds break, and we'll be right back. I need you. welcome back. As we walked out, we did ask you to participate in the questions that I had asked earlier, but you also asked some questions that I'm gonna present to the panelists as we go on. But my first question goes to Jessie, and you know, as you started your business and as you're talking about your entrepreneurship journey, you talked about being a second generation company and being something you are interested in because you're used to go and play with your mom's computer and all these things. Do you think a passion sort of informs what you're supposed to do, the business that you're supposed to start?
All right, thank you, Lucy. Great question. I think passion is critical. I think it's very, it's not a must, but it's critical because I think something that I have learned personally, for example, even throughout the COVID crisis, is that, you know, as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure a lot of other entrepreneurs here experience the same. The last year was crazy, ups and downs. Business, to some extent, didn't work out too well. So when things were not working out too well, what I was left with was passion. And that's what kept me going on a day-to-day basis. So I think that is something that, you know, as an entrepreneur, you really, really have to think about so that what you're doing, you're enjoying to do it. So even when, you know, the income streams are not, you know, coming in as expected, you have to lay off workers, you have to do this and that, you have to make some of those tough decisions. You still have your passion that is left with you, and that is what will keep you going, you know, through the thick, and also through the good times as well. So I think for me that was something that I found critical. Then on top of passion, there are also other things that that come hand in hand in terms of entrepreneurship. So there's the idea of value creation. So on top of passion, you also have to be able to look for ways to add value to your customers. You've also got, you know, something to do with the ability to solve problems. So at the beginning of the year, for example, I did a short course online on Harvard X, whereby one of the key concepts that I learned was something called institutional gaps. So an institutional gap is basically being able to see, you know, the gaps in the infrastructure, or let's say within a given country. So for example, in Kenya, okay, we don't have good roads. Okay, so that's a problem, or that's a challenge. But as an entrepreneur, you need to see where the opportunity is. For example, when, you know, you're seeing there are no good roads, so that means, okay, fine. There's issues of traffic. There's issues of access to, you know, of access to, goods being able to reach the end user. So as an entrepreneur, you're going to see such challenges, and you think, okay, fine. Since the roads are bad, can you be able to come up with logistical solutions to be able to help solve that issue? So, you know, so that's why you've got people like, you know, people like Glovo, for example, coming in with logistic solutions so that they can be able to help, you know, solve some of those challenges. So that concept of institutional voids is something that I really, really took home, so that nowadays if somebody starts talking to me about issues Kenya has, I start thinking of dollar signs. Okay, that's something that we can solve. Okay, we don't have internet. Okay, can I sell you guys devices? That's what we're doing, for example. Okay, can I be able to install internet for you? You know, if somebody starts talking about, oh, the government is not supporting you enough, really, that's an opportunity even for you to be able to look, okay, if government is not supporting you enough, then that means that definitely there are other people who can come up and fill that role, okay? So that means that you, as an entrepreneur, can be able to figure out, okay, since I'm not getting money from the government, which rarely they'll ever give you, it's for you to look for a way so that you can be able to engage other institutions that can be able to come and play that role. So I think that's something that I took home. So on top of passions, you need to be able to add on these other little things that be able to come together and help you, you know, be the best entrepreneur that you really can be. So so passion is not all.
I think important. Thank you for answering that question. Unfortunately, we only have 30 minutes left, so I'm just going to be just kindly ask that we keep our answers short. We might want to make, beauty is in the details and it's the story, but let's try and answer as many questions as we can, because I have 4 questions for each of you, and I would really like if the audience is able to get the most out of you. My next question goes to you, Terian, and it's about starting a business. And I can maybe recall when I wanted to start a business, and there were all these things that I had to do. I had to get a business name, I had to get KRA, I had to get contracts for employees that I wanted to have. It's all these legalities and all these documents that I have to have in place before I start a business. What's your advice on that, just to make sure that a young entrepreneur is not intimidated by all these things that they have to do, and still achieve what they want to achieve?
All right. I guess my first advice would be, don't get intimidated, because if you do intend to grow your business, to enable your business to access credit, to access all these things, those are the first and the most important things you must do. And to be honest, it does sound a lot more intimidating than it actually is. So getting a business name is pretty simple. And now with eCitizen, it simplifies everything. With the KRA tax portal, it simplifies everything. I've now, gotten to a place where I don't have to have an in-house consultant. An in-house employee, especially when it comes to accounting and finance, because there's so many people who are doing that for a very affordable price. So, I think there's so much that's happening around us to enable us start businesses very quickly and very fluently. The challenges now are not as hard as they used to be. So the faster you are to formalize it, the easier it is. And honestly, if you go to the eCitizen website, for instance, from beginning to end of setting up a business, including getting your CR12, getting everything, let's say the bank needs to open an account, you'll get it within the span of a week and a half. So it's actually a lot simpler now. For those of us who started when we needed at least 2 people to register a business, you needed a lawyer, you needed to get somebody to write a memorandum of understanding, a memorandum of what? Association, articles of association, MEMATs. So that, like the MEMATs, for instance, now are actually available on eCitizen. You don't even have to to get a lawyer to do that for you. And it's quite affordable as well. So for me, don't get intimidated. Get your business as formal as possible, as early as possible. And it's super simple this day, so don't get intimidated by it.
Okay, good question, good answer. My next question goes to you, Tracy. And, as a TV presenter, radio host, digital influencer, starting you're already in Fearless as your business. Is it ever enough? The money, the titles?
I've come to be okay with the fact that it's never going to be enough. And, I think even looking back at my journey, now, still looking back, it's like it's never enough, because, when you think of something and you get there, you think, okay, you know what, I'll be fine. But you get there and you realize there's so many other things that now you have to accomplish, right? It's like a flower or a butterfly, right? There's just always something, you know what I mean? It's like you get there, but then you realize, okay, maybe this purpose is not supposed to be going like this. Now we go like this, right? Yeah. And I like what you said earlier on. Sometimes you will not know everything. Yeah. Even sometimes you won't know even 5%. There's so many times I sit down and I'm like, okay, next week, what episode are we putting up? Yeah. Because it's like, you really feel like you've exhausted everything. Even other than that, there are people who are not available. There's this, there's that, and all these things really just bring forth such a huge challenge. But you honestly just have to go. You just have to keep pushing. So is it ever enough? It's never going to be enough, especially money. It's never going to be enough. Because you get the money and then you realize, oh, shucks, now we need to do this new thing. And now you're thinking about, okay, if you were making, for example, 500,000 a month, now you're thinking about, okay, how can we now scale this to 800? Yeah. Because now expenditure, now your overhead costs are now becoming more. So it's never enough.
Okay. Okay, and then maybe I will ask that question to whoever will want to answer about taking a break. because I believe that's also important. It's never enough, but maybe there's a time where you need to enjoy where you've come from and just take a break and enjoy yourself and, you know, appreciate yourself for everything that you have achieved. And this question goes to you, Susan, and it goes to what you spoke about earlier, helping SMEs and bringing out the best that they can be. What are some of the challenges that you have come across in your 14 years? Like summarized in 5, these are the most, in my 14 years of SME, these are the constant issues that I have to deal with when I'm trying to help an SME.
Okay, very quickly. Okay, I think the first one is structure. And I like that Terian has talked about formalizing your business and figuring out how you're going to receive and use money. Yeah? Because money is what talks to us as banks when it comes to access to finance. The money that I see as your track record, it could be in your M-Pesa statement or SACCO statements or your bank statement. That's how I'm able to analyze and see, based on your expenses and what you receive, you have an extra amount of X that I can then attach to a loan repayment. When I can't see that, and many times you'll go to an entrepreneur's premises and they'll show you their book, but that book doesn't quite tally with what their statement is saying. They probably, what I've actually noticed is they end up banking their profit and everything else they do over the counter, if it's a trading business. So I encourage you, try and make sure that there's a track record, even for audit purposes. When you have an audit, and remember now KRA is beginning to ask for 1% turnover tax, how will you account for it if KRA comes and they want to start vetting? They might actually say, oh, everything here belongs to us, you know? Yeah. So it's very important. Number 2, I think what I've also seen as a challenge is just that thing of not being disciplined with finances. So you find you've not separated your personal wallet and your business wallet. I try and encourage entrepreneurs, put your personal wallet somewhere and take insurance for health especially, because those are some of the things that will come and hit you as a big bill. Remember, you have family, and they believe because you are running a business, you have money all the time.
Yeah.
So they will come in. So I encourage entrepreneurs, take an insurance cover for your health. I encourage you to take for your employees. I encourage you to take at least for your parents, because those are your significant others who will come and dip unexpectedly to your income. So because I've seen, they've come to me and told me, Susan, I need to go and pay this bill. You know, it's not something related to the business, but yet it's critical.
Yeah.
So that's another challenge I've seen right there. So try and pay yourself a salary, even if it's a small one. Put it in a separate account. You know when it's depleted, right? And then the other thing is just understanding how much money are you making. Some believe as long as money is coming in the shop every day, I'm making a profit. Voila, you're not making a profit. You're actually making a loss.
Yeah.
So don't delegate too much. Even if you have somebody who comes to check your books, make sure every day you're seeing, how much money did I make? As a bare minimum, how much money did I make today, right? And that it is actually adding up to a profit at the end of the month, right? So be disciplined to be able to know that. Yeah, exactly. I would add more. I mean, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs who come and tell me, Susan, this business is about fake it till you make it. I don't know who cheated guys that, to be honest. So you find somebody has rented some big premises, they're paying a lot of rent, but hey, they don't need that much space. They can actually give up a whole 3/4 of that space, and they all need a quarter. And they're actually coming because now they're being kicked out. And of course, because of status, they don't want to move away from that premises. Or another one, they want to buy the best car in town, and yet their business can't afford it. So I can talk quite a number of challenges I've seen, but at least the financial discipline piece, I think to me is the most critical, and being able to track your transactions.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, awesome. I like everything that you said, structure, discipline, separating your account, your business account from your personal account. And I think the most important one that I've picked personally, and I know you've been taking notes, is open insurance, or again, put a separate account for yourself and for the business, because family is important, as Susan said, and as some of us agree. If your mother, your child, your spouse comes in and says they have a problem or they are going through a medical condition, you'll not just sit there and watch because, you know, you have a business and the business should cater for itself. But when you're able to open an account for yourself and for the business and pick insurance for your family members and for your business, then you're able to solve those problems without making your business go bankrupt. So that's a really important point, and I hope that you can be able to take that home. My next question goes to you, Jessie, and even as we are listening, maybe people who are listening right now are thinking they want to be in the entrepreneurship space, but maybe they don't need to be, or they are already employed, but they are thinking, maybe I could be in the entrepreneurship space. So what are the unmistakable qualities that an entrepreneur have? Just for the guys to know if they have them, and that's what they need to do.
All right, thank you. Yeah, first of all, I think in terms of entrepreneurship, let's not put it in a box. For example, like Susan, for example, she's an entrepreneur, but she works for a bank.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no need putting it in a box. So you can be employed and doing whatever it is you're doing, but you're still an entrepreneur. Yeah. So either you're doing it as a side hustle, which is okay, or either that even within the sector that you're in, you're also an entrepreneur within the job that you're in. There's a word called intrapreneur. Yeah. So meaning that you're bringing innovation to whichever sector that you're in. So there's no need putting that in a box. But however, I think just to answer your question in terms of skills, I think there are some things that generally as an entrepreneur you need to have at the back of your mind all the time. So I think for me, one of the most important things is agility. Being able to quickly adapt to changes, which is, entrepreneurs, we go through a myriad of problems. One thing, this year it's COVID. Next year it's probably going to be something else. The following year it's going to be, your families are growing older, whatever you need to, So basically you deal with challenges every single time. So being able to adapt to the changes and challenges all the time is what will really make a difference. So that means that if you're focused and you have a vision and you know this is where you want to go, that means that any challenges that come forward, you'll be able to quickly sort of like maneuver your business in a way that it will be able to adapt to the challenges.
Yeah.
So, so as an entrepreneur, you don't have to stick to one thing. Okay. So right now you're doing tech. Okay. Next year you could figure out. Okay. These challenges have come. The sector. I mean, for example, hospitality right now, probably not the best industry to be in right now. So if you're quickly agile and able to move quickly to something else, so now you start perhaps delivering food to people's homes. So I think in terms of being able to look at the skills that you need, I think one of the critical ones is just being able to adapt quickly and adapt very, very fast.
Okay. So agility, focus, and adapting. Thank you for that. My next question is to Terian. So as I was trying to study you in my past week, you started your business in Form 4, the first business that you ever tried. After Form 4, yes, and you talked about it even when you're introducing yourself, which is you are selling second-hand clothes. And I think my question to you is, and I know you've done a video of that in your YouTube channel, which is something you guys can go and watch, but maybe to summarize, what are some of these businesses or some of these things that we can do even with limited capital?
Okay. You're right. There's so much that can be done with a little capital. And whenever I hear people saying, "Oh, I have this idea, but I don't have enough capital," I always say, "Why don't you start something smaller that will fund, or will get you to the amount of capital that you want?" The reason I came up with actually that particular video, I was listening to a conversation. A lady who does personal finance, somebody tweeted her and asked her, my salary is, let's say, 24,000 shillings. It's my first job. I feel like I'm at the point where I want to start a business, but what can I do? With 24,000, I pay my rent. I have A, B, C, D. I need to, get fare to work. And she told her something very important. She said, in your workplace, there are women. These women will probably need some jewelry. Just start with 2,000 shillings. Go down to that famous street, Du Bois in town, buy some earrings, do your markup, and sell. The only cost you have is your walking cost, So so my thinking around it is, first of all, look around you. It could be food, where you cook at your house, bring to your friends at work, or your neighbors. You could be good at baking. You could start something in your house, start selling to your neighbors, maybe bread. Especially, I remember like last year, I kept thinking, why don't I know how to bake bread? Because every time I went to the supermarket, the bread was about to go bad because nobody was buying bread. People were making pancakes at home. So we stopped buying bread, and I thought if somebody around my neighborhood, somebody I know, was making bread and delivering every morning, it would probably cost them 3,000 shillings to start.
Yeah.
So there's so many small businesses, and allow me to talk about an example. I met virtually a Nigerian lady who started a business called Younger Beauty. And she actually started by selling cosmetics in campus. So during her campus years, which is not long ago, she's probably just maybe a year or two older than Tracy. So she, started buying lipstick, lip glosses from the local area and should sell to everyone in school. So if anybody needed makeup, then they went to her. And I've also seen there's a trend where, there's something called private label or white labeling, which is incredibly growing, not just locally, but internationally. So you approach a private label manufacturer. It could be anything. It could be clothes, it could be shoes, it could be makeup, it could be skincare, it could be hair care. It could be anything. And they produce it for you and put your brand on it. So basically you get a finished product, and it can start from anything from 10,000 shillings. So what I would say is just learn. And I like something that Jerry mentioned earlier about the course he took, the Harvard X, which I took also. You have to constantly learn, and I think the more you equip yourself with knowledge, the more you know what's happening around you, and the easier it is for you to just break into a certain space from an entrepreneurial perspective.
Yeah, awesome. I hope you've been taking notes, because those are some wise words and some good advice that came, that you don't need all the money. You can start, you have this big dream, but how about you start here to get there if you don't have the capital that you need to do what it is that you want to do. Next question goes to Tracy, who, by the way, is 25 years old. Imagine. And she's doing so well for herself. So my question to you is, as one of the panelists last week, but one said, everything, it's like a good pomade, it attracts dust. So being beautiful, doing all these wonderful things, being in the limelight, doing all these entertainment things, you're most likely to attract the good and attract the bad. Even in business, as a young person, as a beautiful person, as someone vibrant, you are likely to adapt to attract the good and the bad. So how do you make sure that even as you're attracting the good, you're keeping away the bad, or you're dealing with the bad in a right way that doesn't affect your business or you as a brand?
Right. I think it's, especially now, it's really hard for you to stay. So the point is, before I even go to that, you have to be disciplined.
Yeah.
And, I remember in high school, you'd hear all the stories, you do discipline, you're looking at this guy, you're like, what are you talking about? But it really comes a long way. And I thank even my mom for how she raised me, right? Because I look back and there's so many things, bad things that were thrown at me and keep being thrown at me. And, if it wasn't for the discipline, I think there's just a lot of things. I would have lost my mind. Yeah. I would have lost, just the person that I am. But it's really important for you to be disciplined and stay true to the person that you are and stay true to your journey, right? Because you realize that your journey sometimes really requires you to make a lot of sacrifices. And that is something that I have realized with my journey. Because as an entrepreneur, as a media personality, as all these things, there's so many things that you have to say no to, because these things will come bite your back in the future. Bite you in the back?
Yes.
Yes, in the future, right? So there's so many things you just have to, from the get-go, as much as they sound so lucrative, you just have to say no, because years to come, karma really is a bad person.
Yeah.
So really can affect you in the future. So just really stay focused. And now it's really hard too, because you see 25-year-olds in Range Rovers, you're like, guy, honey, what's up? And because, who doesn't want to be going to work every single morning in a Range? It's pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
It is. Other than that, you want to be in a house that, the gym is there, the pool is there, you have your chef there in the morning, you're not running, breaking your knees to make bread and whatever in the morning. So, all that is so beautiful, and we all aspire for that. But it really isn't the reality right now. And I think it's very important for young people to understand so many of these things that are in our faces every single day, thanks to social media. It's not really how life is, right? So accept that, accept your journey and stay true to that journey, right? Because that journey will teach you a lot of things, and hopefully it will bring you to that place that you aspire to be at.
Awesome. I like everything that you said, but I think my takeaway home is it might seem nice right now. It might seem like the yes and not the no. It might seem like what you're supposed to say yes to, but sometimes you just have to say no because it will come later and bite you in the back. Because that pull right now that you're being promised, or that pull right now that somebody is coming at you and promising you all these beautiful things, they might not be there tomorrow, and then now you'll have wasted a whole 2 years or a whole 3 years or 5 years doing what you could have done and owning what you could have owned as your own. So sometimes it's not always easy to say yes. I mean to say no, but you just have to say it because of discipline and because of what you want to achieve in future. We are almost closing off, but I think I have one more question for Susan before we take the questions that are coming in from the different channels. And that is, you know, Tracy talked about driving a Range Rover, having a home with a pool, and having all these beautiful things that we all aspire. But what are some of the things that Absa is doing to help entrepreneurs or SMEs, you know, achieve more?
Okay, good question, Lucy. First, I think it just starts off with a transactional account. So we have an Absa One product that we launched last year that has been doing very well. So it's an account where you can run all your transactions and you only pay as you transact. So in that account, you're able to then get access to online banking, banking through the business app, and that gives you convenience. So remember, I talked about making sure that there's a track record of your transaction. So you can easily use this account to then be able to manage your expenses and also make your payments comfortably, especially with all the restrictions that we have currently. We have savings account, and at the moment, the reason I mentioned that is because you've got to be thinking about these goals that Tracy is talking about, and how are you putting money aside as an entrepreneur to be able to achieve that goal. Or you have employees that you need to incentivize at the end of the year. So is there anything that you're putting aside? I remember walking a journey with an entrepreneur where they came to my desk and they asked me, Susan, I just need 40,000. I'm going to the market, I buy my potatoes, I'm going to supply to a hotel, and then I bring it back. Then I told him, okay, that sounds very easy and very simple, but remember, all he needed was 40,000. So we had to start somewhere, because that's not what he was banking at that time. It was not even close. He was just had an idea of something that he wants to start doing. So we agreed with him, okay, let's start here, but then you have to open a savings account so that some of the money that you make, begin to put it aside. And then also you can come back to the bank later and say, I've saved this much, how much more can you give me? Yeah. And I was so excited the next time I saw him after 2 years, he was driving his own truck, going to do those things. Just from savings. So don't disregard a savings account. We do provide that service as well to our customers. And then the other thing we're able to do is there's access to finance, which is our bread and butter as a bank. So we have both secured and unsecured lending that you can be able to get access to. Of course, based on the money that we see, then you can get access to the unsecured limits that we have up to 10 million shillings. I say that I know we can give you 1 million shillings if that's where your business is at. It just depends on how much your business is able to pay. And then, of course, we have all these other products that we would give, whether it's LPO financing, invoice discounting, that then supports you manage your contracts and be able to support them. We have good MOUs with some of the larger corporates. So, and we've simplified some of the access to finance when it comes to those MOUs that we have with corporates, whether it's with KRE, Kengen, Safaricom. So you can always come to us if you're a supplier in some of these corporates, and we can be able to support you with facilitate that supply that you need to make. And then, of course, we do non-financial services, and we do a lot of that. So the whole of last year, we were doing webinars every single month to train businesses on business resilience. We did realize that a lot of SMEs didn't ever think of a business continuity plan, but hey, it took COVID for us to begin to think. An SME also needs to think like a corporate as much as they're not a corporate. Yeah. Because you need to think, what will you do tomorrow if you can't get anywhere. I mean, you still have your product. And maybe you never even planned to stock up your business to that level because you never thought about it. So we do a lot of non-financial services, building capacity, financial literacy. We've partnered with USIU Africa, and we're doing just a business 101 course. You finish it within 16 to 7 weeks. It's very practical. They actually ask entrepreneurs like the ones here to come to the class and train with you. And it's just 40,000 shillings, and you do it online. But then you get the right skills. So we have a whole range. We are like a one-stop shop when it comes to SMEs, including the insurance that I talked about. I think it's very important to protect your assets as you build yourself. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, especially now that we are into tech, right? So if your Mac computer gets stolen, right? Yeah. I'm just trying to think, how quickly can you replace it? And it went away with all your documents and everything. And I've seen a business go down because of that. So we try and provide the whole service that is required to make sure that an entrepreneur is successful.
Okay. Yeah. And I like that you talked about, I was here crossing my fingers that you talk about the SME Academy course. So I'm so glad that you talked about that, because I actually attended the first one that happened last year. And it's an amazing partnership between USIU and Absa, where you can go and learn all the skills that you need as an entrepreneurship, get a degree, get a certificate, and get all the skills, meet other entrepreneurs in the space, and just network and learn all these amazing things that you can learn. So because we have, I think, actually 2 minutes, I'm just going to ask us to close the session. But before that, because you are the reason why we are here, all the questions that have come to us, I see James Kibet asked about, the conversation, taking the conversation from a conversation to a practical example. And then there's Victor talking about the bank support for startups in tech field. There's Lynn talking about how you can venture into something that you're afraid of. There is Victor again, who is talking about a startup in the pilot stage and seeking investors. There's Fred. There are so many questions that are coming in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal 5 minutes from each of the panelists, and we're going to do a short clip that can be served on our social media pages just to answer these questions that are coming in, because we couldn't answer them during the session. And with that said, I'm just going to thank you for joining in the webinar and for tuning in, and keep your questions coming. We will find a way for the panelists to answer, even if it's through email or through our social media platforms. All your questions are going to be answered. And we have one last session remaining next week, part 1, which will be focused on design thinking. That's a tricky conversation, but why don't you join us and unpack it? With that said, thank you again for joining, and it's goodbye from us. Bye.
When you're a stranger, faces look ugly when you're alone.